Hey guys, Justin here again. Welcome back. For this video, we're going to go over the Buckeye Miata Club Test and Tune and Rookie School. I may try and divide this up into two different videos. For this portion of the video, I'm probably going to focus a little bit more on trying to get across some of the points that I remember going over from the Rookie School. Maybe just to kind of share it with a few other people. I feel like I hopped in a lot of cars and gave certain guys instruction, and I didn't get the chance to hop in with everybody and kind of share that with all of you. But yeah, I got a lot of video as well from the Test and Tune for the second two sessions. The first session I was talking to a spectator, so I didn't really get to get any of you guys, so sorry if you were in that first group. And then also, I guess if you wanted video from the Rookie School, sorry about that also. But I guess first thing first, one of the big things that I caught one of the guys on was don't ride around with your foot on the clutch pedal. Use your dead pedal. And if you're not sure of what that is, the dead pedal, not all cars have it. I know my Neons didn't, but there's in some vehicles you'll have a stationary pedal all the way over to the left, farther over from the clutch. It's just a, basically like a little block or something that sticks out from the floor. Rest your foot on that, because that'll give you something to brace against. The guy that had his foot on the clutch pedal was dipping the clutch in the middle of the turns because he was trying to brace himself. And in a factory seat with 3-point belts, you're going to have to brace yourself some. That's one of the big benefits to having aftermarket seats and harnesses, is you don't have to hold yourself in as much, which allows you to be a lot less tense, and you can actually feel the car a lot better. So bear that in mind. On the same token, that all that stuff is made to be used, all the safety gear is made to be used as a system, so it's not recommended to use aftermarket seats and harnesses on the street because you don't have the full setup there. Unless you're driving around with a helmet and a head and neck restraint on the street, then I'm going to look funny at you even. But all that's meant to complement one another, so try not to run those on the street if you can help it. Bracing yourself. And then, just generally positioning yourself in the car. I'll try to leave a link in the description for a video. I think it was Patrick Long was he's a factory Porsche driver, and he did it for America Le Mans, and now he's racing with the WeatherTech series. Actually did a very good video on how to position your seat, so I'll link you to that one. That way I don't have to sit here and explain the whole thing to you over again when somebody else has already done it better than what I'm going to do. In addition to positioning yourself, as far as your seating position goes, one of the things that I've been taught, actually same guy was dipping the pedal, we caught him truck driver driving, so using one hand up on top of the wheel and kind of trying to spin the wheel with an open hand. Especially when you're in a performance driving situation and you're trying to, kind of handle the wheel a little bit more than what you normally would, your hand's a lot more likely to slip and you're not going to have as much control over the vehicle. So the way you're generally taught to do that is with your hands at 3 and 9 and your thumbs up. Try not to lock your thumbs down inside the wheel. I know that gives you a little more leverage, but in the event of an accident, especially if you go in front end first, you're going to end up, when you hit the wall, the wheels are going to turn, which is going to turn your steering wheel inside because that's all connected. So the steering wheel is going to very quickly turn and your thumbs are locked in that. You could potentially break your thumbs or something like that. So try to avoid doing that. None of us want the accident to happen, but if it does, you'll have your fingers out of it. So that's one other thing to keep in mind as far as positioning yourself. One of the other things, kind of not so driving related, that I got into with one of the other fellas that we were teaching there was a couple of books. One of the authors that I didn't think to mention to him was Carroll Smith. He's he's very good to watch, or sorry, to read. One of the books that I would recommend to start with for him is the Drive to Win. You're going to get a lot of... Carroll Smith was a engineer for the factory Ford GT team for Le Mans. I mean, he was back around, the 60s and that kind of thing. Some of the information in his books might be a little bit older, but a lot of the racing information in it, as far as driving, kind of still applies. He's also got other books, so if you jump into Tune to Win or Engineer to Win, you're going to get that from an engineer's perspective. So a lot of that's over my head. So bear that in mind if you go reading some of his other books. But Drive to Win is a good one to start with. The other one that I wanted to recommend to him, Ross Bentley. He's got a lot of books in the Speed Secrets series. I think the one I've got is Ultimate Speed Secrets, where he kind of took a lot of his information he had in his earlier books and kind of lumped it into one book and added a little bit from there. And one of the things that he said he really liked about that book was that he was able to kind of take everything that he had already put in his other books and kind of group it together a little bit better to kind of keep it a little more coherent. So that's another good book to check out if you're into reading up on kind of some driving ideas. And that was a really good book because he took that from the very basics all the way up to some very advanced stuff, and you get a lot into the mental game in that book. And his big thing he likes to talk a lot about is mental programming and how to kind of sit there and visualize everything in your head before you actually go out and do it. Maybe do it repetitively. Even when you're not at the track, to kind of keep yourself ready for the next time. Because the more you kind of go over that in your head, and he talks about doing it perfectly, because if you don't, then you're programming bad things, the things you don't want to do into your head, and you'll actually end up doing the same things on track. So besides those two, I think the last one I want to recommend is Going Faster. It's an old Skip Barber book that they used to use to teach. So that has a lot of good information in it, and probably one of the best driving books. Of course, Ross's is hard to compare to as well, but that one, again, they take you from the very basics, because the stronger your basics are, the better you can build on your advanced techniques and all that sort of thing. But they take you from the very basics up to some very high level stuff. And some of the cooler things they talked about in both those books was tire slip angle, and how you'll if you're actually out track driving, you'll hear the tires squealing before you get up to the actual traction limit of the car, unless you're on slicks. Those are different. And that's one of the things I'm sure we'll get into later, is how, especially when you're trying to learn how to performance drive, how less is more, because the lesser tires will actually talk to you a lot better than slicks will, so it's not always a good idea to jump in on slicks. But yeah, they talked about how, you'll have a certain slippage of the tire, and it was like somewhere around 7 to 9%, a normal race tire slippage. So you actually have 7 to 9% of the tread of the tire actually breaking away from the road as you're driving along, and that's the peak grip level that you're going to create from that tire. And then, obviously race tires have a little bit more of a knife edge curve than what street tires do. They're a little more forgiving, and I think you actually got a little bit more slip out of those before they reached their peak grip, so they were definitely more forgiving. You just had to worry a little bit more about overheating them. So that's probably a little more in depth than we needed to go for a few driving basics, but just an idea of what you can find in those books. One of the other big things I noticed a lot of is a lot of guys were trying to stay in first going around an autocross course, and it's very common for the guys who've been there for a while. And again, I'm trying to speak for everybody. All cars are different, all tracks are going to be different, so you might actually find situations where going back down into first is better for you. But as a general rule, try shifting into second and staying there. It may feel slower getting back out of corners, but you're upsetting the balance of the car when you're trying to put that much power down, and it might actually be quicker generally it is quicker to leave it in second as you're going around the track. Like I said, just for that kind of balance thing. Another thing that ended up getting brought up, and I completely blew a couple guys' minds with this, is autocross and track driving like HPD and that kind of thing are entirely different from one another. Whereas autocross is going to reward you for kind of, quick movements on the wheel and doing a lot of weight transfer, which I know just talking about using second to keep the car a little more balanced doesn't make sense, but for whatever reason that seems to be the exception to the rule. But yeah, it seems like autocross rewards being a lot less smooth. When you get onto the big tracks, one of the things you're going to hear a lot of is smoother is faster. So you want to be real progressive on the wheel, and that's where your heel toe down shifting and everything starts coming in. Also, I say use second for autocross. There are events, I know, the Northeast Region SCCA had an event up at Devon's Airfield in Massachusetts, and that track is so long that some of the Subarus and that thing are kind of getting into the top of fourth gear before they hit the end of the straight stretches and that kind of thing. So like I said, depending on the track, it may change. So bear that in mind also. The thing with autocross is the track's always different, and you have a very short number of runs to very quickly adapt and find out what's going to be the quickest for that. One of the things I try to tell the guys over and over at the rookie school was try different things, because especially when you're first getting started out, you're going to find out what works best for you and works best for the car, and it may not always be the first thing you go to. So if you feel like second's not working for you, maybe drop back into first and try that. Or if you feel that maybe jerking back and forth at the wheel isn't doing very well, maybe try being a little bit smoother. Maybe your car has a softer suspension set up and you're kind of over rotating the car. Just a couple different things to try there, and especially if you get a couple different runs, experimentation's a real good thing to kind of help you get a little better run at your competition. Myself, for the first run or two, maybe I'll go a little bit slower, just kind of trying to cement the track into your mind. Ideally, you would do that mental programming thing and kind of try and walk yourself through the track before you actually take off. So like as you're sitting waiting for the vehicles in front of you to get done running the track, take yourself back through the track again. Try to remember all the different corners and visualize yourself going through the track, because that'll help you, especially if you're doing like SCCA Autocross where they have the sea of cones, the parking lot. That'll help you kind of not get behind. And that was one of the big things we talked about at the Autocross was slaloms and that kind of thing. It's easy to get behind. Slaloms will very heavily discipline you if you fall behind on those. And especially if you do like I said, the SCCA Autocross, the sea of cones out in the parking lot. Corners will come up on you that you're not expecting, and then you'll be behind and you lose time there. And at a very busy event you might only get 4 runs. 6 is usually on the higher end, but yeah, you might only have 4 runs to actually figure everything out, so trying not to throw away as many of them as possible is a good idea. And then always, also, if you do find yourself getting lost a lot, ask somebody to come ride with you, because normally one of the guys that have been there for a while can kind of guide you through the track as you're trying to figure it out. So that may end up saving you a couple of runs, because if you end up off track, you're going to DNF. I think that's about it for autocross pointers that I've got on top of my head right now for you. That's some of the big points we went over in the rookie school. So stay tuned for the next video. I'll try and get some video of you guys actually out on course. And I guess we'll see you at that video. Thanks again. Bye.